Hi everyone and welcome back to Farrand Film. Today I'm bringing you a 4K review of the 2022 film Scream. So we're not talking the 1996 original, we're talking the reboot, sequel, whatever it is that you want to call it, 2022 Scream. This version of Scream was directed by the group known as Radio Silence, so Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett. It is a pretty much direct sequel to Scream 4, with some specific links to that film in there as well, but it was billed as being a relaunch of the franchise. In the film, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and Neve Campbell all reprised their roles from the original films, alongside a new, younger cast looking to sort of breathe a bit of fresh air into this franchise. The film takes place 25 years after the original Woodsboro murders and is looking at a new series of ghost face killings. Now, as expected with the Scream franchise, this mixes elements of horror, black comedy, and the whodunit that became so popular with the slasher films of the late 90s and early noughties. Being as meta as it is, the film also includes a number of different references to more contemporary horrors, such as Hereditary, The Babadook, and even The Witch. Before we get into my review of the film, I just want to mention that Scream is now available to download and keep, and is out on 4K Ultra HD and Blu-ray Steelbook, 4K UHD, Blu-ray and DVD from today, April the 11th. I was sent a copy of the 4K disc, which I'm going to review for you after my film review and after this brief trailer. My review then. So this wasn't the first time I saw Scream. I went to go and see Scream in the cinema, and obviously the film's not changed from when I watched it the last time. I think it's a decent sequel. It's a good film. It's very meta, and I think some of the best things about it were this feeling that we're in familiarity. We're in sort of, somewhere that we know. Woodsboro looks exactly like it did in the original, which I think is credit to the cast and crew. And although I felt like I'd seen it before, in that, before I went to go and watch it for the first time, I decided to rewatch the trilogy. There's a lot of similar traits, but ultimately at this point, we're 5 films into this franchise. If you're not going in expecting certain things and then end up getting them, you can't really be disappointed at that point. One of the more interesting elements of the film for me was the use of Skeet Ulrich. Now, when I read that he was in the cast, I was intrigued to see how they were going to do that, because obviously his character dies in the first film. And there are a lot of twists and turns in this film. There are a lot of different reveals, some previously unknown familial links that have now been made during the film. I'm not going to spoil them here, because if I'm honest, it was very easy for me to try and review this film by going through this person's connected to this person's connected to this person. But actually, I think along the way, those surprises help. To talk about the young cast for a second, now obviously there's a number of different people in there, including Dylan Minnette, who you will know from 13 Reasons Why. You have Melissa Barrera, who was most recently in The Heights. So there's a very talented cast throughout this film, and I think ultimately if they're going to try and spin off, which I think they are doing because they've announced another sequel, that this cast are probably going to pop up again in another film, and I'm all for that, but I'm interested to see where they then go from here, because obviously, as I've mentioned, this links back to the first a lot, and there's a lot of kind of motivation for certain characters based on what you see here. Ultimately then, for my review of the film, if you're a fan of the franchise, if you've seen the other 4 films, you're probably going to go and check this out anyway if you've not done so already. And absolute credit to David Arquette, who puts in his best performance as Dewey Riley to date. Now, to get onto the more pressing reason of this review, I'm going to be looking at the disc, so the actual film on a disc that I was sent by Paramount. Now, obviously it's 4K. It looks very crisp. It looks really great. And the sound quality is amazing on it as well. And this obviously reflects the more kind of digital way of filmmaking. There's not any sort of film grain on there or anything like that. The image looks really crisp. The blacks pop as well as you expect in a horror film. The blood pops out as well. And it's got a really nice sort of fine color grading on it. It's one of the best looking horror films I've seen in a very long time, I would say. To get into the features of the disc, so obviously there's a filmmaker's commentary, which is quite interesting. There's a number of deleted scenes, which I'll be honest, are very inconsequential. They all tend to feature Dewey Riley doing certain things, trying to fill holes in possibly his plot. But again, they're deleted for a reason. We didn't necessarily need them. There is a very interesting featurette called New Blood, which is the first of a few celebratory features calling back to the original and its legacy. It's much more focused on the characters, introducing new characters, getting across the intention of making this and making sure that it felt fresh while paying homage to the original as much as possible. There's a real emphasis during this on how far things have come. since the 1996 original in terms of technology and the conscious effort that the filmmakers tried to make of making this a multicultural society. There's a featurette called Bloodlines, which looks at the threads of the 1996 film that tie into this one, linking back to certain legacy characters and how certain elements throw back to the original film. Now, I think that might sound obvious, or what I'm about to say might sound obvious, but it contains spoilers for the films. So realistically, I wouldn't be delving too much into any of these featurettes before you've actually seen the film if you're picking up the disc for the first time. And one of the final nice touches is a featurette called In the Shadow of the Master, which essentially is a homage to Wes Craven and the original Scream. Look back at the cast and crew, to Wes's legacy. There's a really sweet inclusion in the set by all of them paying tribute to him and looking at how the film specifically pays tribute to him in obviously the most meta of ways, which if you've seen the film, you probably know what I'm talking about. And the final little tidbit on the disc is a trailer for the 1996 film to hype its re-release in 4K, which again, just from watching that trailer, I actually wanted to go and check out the 1996 original on 4K because it looks great. It looks like it's had a brilliant transfer and definitely doesn't look like a film that is now 25 years old. As I mentioned at the start, Scream is now available to download and keep at stores such as iTunes and Sky Store. You can also buy a Steelbook version, which includes the 4K Blu-ray disc and the individual Blu-ray disc. You can also go and buy it individually at 4K UHD and on Blu-ray and on DVD from today, Monday, the 11th of April. I'd once again like to thank Paramount for sending me the disc, very much appreciated. I'd love to do more of these in the future. In the meantime, you can help support Farrand on Film by following us on Twitter at Farrand on Film and at Adam Farrand, by going over to our sponsor Offworld Tees and using the code Farrand, that's FARRAND, for 15% off your order. Stay safe, look after each other, and we will see you next time.